All
Perfect.
right.
I am ready, sir. Ready
All
to
right,
go.
here we go. So five, four, three, two, and one. All right, folks, welcome back to the podcast. I'm very excited to have as my guest today, Michael Ashford. Michael, welcome.
Thank you so much, Guy. I appreciate you inviting me on.
All right. So Michael is the director of marketing at the Receptionist in Denver, Colorado, and has spent the past decade building and leading marketing teams at companies large and small. Prior to his career in marketing, Michael was an award-winning journalist after graduating from Kansas State University. His approach to marketing focuses on scaling companies through the power of effective communication, storytelling, and humanizing brands. Michael, welcome.
Again, thank you so
All right.
much. I love
Yeah.
it.
So before we get going here and before we dive in, share with the listeners where you're from originally and where you are currently.
Originally from the Kansas City area.
Okay.
Now, those of you who are up to it, you do know that there's a Kansas City, Missouri, and a Kansas City, Kansas, and I am from the Kansas City, Kansas side of things.
Oh,
So
okay.
grew up in the Midwest on the Kansas side of the Kansas City metro area, and then I have lived almost a decade now in the Denver, Colorado area, where I came for my job at the time, switched jobs to where I'm at here at the receptionist. So been here, like I said, for about 10 years.
Okay. So break it down. What is the receptionist? Who's it for? Let's dive into it here.
Well, in the context of what we're talking about here today, we work with a lot of behavioral health professionals, mental health professionals, therapists, both in private practice and in group practice, to help streamline and make more efficient the act of somebody coming into a practice and notifying the therapist that they're there. That, what we have found, is a blind spot for a lot of practices, whether large or small, that somebody walks in, there's
Mhm.
nobody sitting at the front desk oftentimes. And so they don't know what to do. They may have anxiety about the fact that they're there, especially if they're a first time patient or client. And the therapist themselves may not know that somebody just walked in the door. If you're in a group practice, if you hear that door open and close, is it your next appointment?
Right.
Is it the other therapist down the hall? Is it their next appointment? Is it a delivery? Is it your lunch? Is it a salesperson? We just don't know. And so that disruption of time that you have to stand up, poke your head out the door, or walk down the hallway and say, "Oh, no, sorry, you're not mine. Somebody will be with you in just a bit." We aim to disrupt that. We aim to alleviate, I should say, that disruption from your day and from the person walking in the door from their day. So
Okay.
we're a check in system. That's
Okay.
as simple as I can make it. We're a check in system that the person walking in checks in, and the person that they're there to see is notified that they're there. And we remove that messy middle.
So a check-in system specifically, do you provide that system or is
Yes,
it
sir.
like so okay.
It's software. It runs
Okay.
on an iPad. And
Okay.
so you can have a wall mounted iPad, you can have a desk stand, you can have one that stands on the floor, however you want to set it up. But yeah, we provide the software that runs on an iPad.
Okay. And um so let's go into more specifically how does it work? So what does the software look like? How user-friendly is it?
Well, I mean, you've got the marketer here, guy. So I'm gonna tell you, it's incredibly user friendly.
Okay.
But it's button based. And what that means is every action that the person using the iPad to check in on, there's a button that allows them to. Did you ever read those books, the choose your own adventure books, where you got to choose the chapter and then it told you, okay, go to page
Yeah,
152?
yeah, 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 yeah.
That's a little bit like the system works.
Okay.
You say what you're there for, who you're there to see. In the case of, because we're dealing with people's sensitive information, we're not going to ask them for things like their social security number, or we're not going to ask them for things like their credit card information, but we may ask them, has your billing information changed since your last visit? And in that way, the therapist can be notified, oh, I've got to get more updated billing information from them. But you choose what makes sense for you. You
Okay.
pick your therapist. And then once you're done with just a few short questions, you tap to check in, and that notification gets sent to the person that you're there to see. That notification usually, in with our therapy clients that we work with, usually comes in as a text message. So I'm wearing a smartwatch here. I just get a little buzz on my phone. Your next appointment has arrived. Maybe it's their first name, last initial. for, again, privacy concerns, privacy
Mhm.
reasons. And now they know. Now the person at the front desk knows, who just checked in, somebody's there, there's a record of me being here, and somebody has been notified that I'm here. I can sit back, I can relax, I can maybe grab a drink of water or coffee or go to the bathroom. And the therapist, who might still be wrapping up their
Mhm.
last session, they might be finishing session notes, and they're kind of on a roll because, once you get done, once you get into
Mhm.
typing up session notes, you just want to finish them, right?
Yeah.
They don't have to go stand up and say, "Hey, Michael, I'll be right with you. Just hang out for a few minutes." You now know that they're checked in, and you know that they're there. And again, we alleviate that messy middle. So button-based workflow for the user, simple notifications for the therapist. It can also be email, it can be Slack message, it can be Microsoft Teams messages. So you can be
Okay.
notified in a variety of different ways.
And is that the only kind of point of contact between the client and the therapist? For example, the client doesn't have an app that they to do
Correct.
that. Okay, it's just
It,
at the office. And one of the things that I'm thinking about just off the top of my head is it feels like a very professional way of creating that interaction, right? You have
Absolutely.
this system that just seems and feels very professional to me.
And that is feedback that we get. I do want to address one thing.
Yeah.
You can we have mobile check-in. So you can use your phone, you can scan a QR code. Sometimes our therapy clients, if they're doing a virtual session, will email a check-in code to their customer, to their client, and they'll say, check in here when you're ready to go, and I'll start the Zoom link.
Okay.
Right. And so there is that ability to even virtually check in. So, but it's not done through an app, it's just done through your
Got
phone's
it.
mobile browser.
Okay.
But you're absolutely hitting on something here that, and I lost my train of thought because I just took you off track there.
Well, I had just said it just seemed to me like a really
The professional side.
professional uh, integration,
That's right.
something to bring into an office that normally or might not even have. If you don't have that, if you don't have that system, it can seem on the far end of the continuum unprofessional, on the less so just kind of bumbling, like
Right.
we don't have our act together here. But this seems like, okay, it just seems more professional and you've got your act together. You want to, there's this common adage, right? The therapy starts from the moment, that first call. And in a
Absolutely.
sense, this could even be part of that.
Thank you for getting me back on track. And you're absolutely right. What I have found with my own therapist, with the other therapists that we work with here at the Receptionist, is that this group of people, this population of people, is so good at thinking of the entirety of the human experience,
Right.
from the first interaction, like you talked about, to how you show up, to how the paperwork looks, to the notifications that you receive, the reminders that you receive, to billing, to the experience in the office and the nice furniture, the comfortable furniture, the perhaps pleasant music playing in the lobby, the white noise, the comfortable seating and environment in the session room itself. So much has been thought of. So much detail has been ironed out, that this is one of those ways that we have found can get overlooked. That
Mhm.
check-in process. What does somebody do the moment they walk into your space? Whether you're a one-person practice or in a group practice of 50 and everywhere in between. It's that part of the patient client experience that we just, for some reason, for a variety of reasons, I should say, we can overlook. It can be overlooked.
Why? We'll get specific. Why have you found or have been told that that is overlooked?
Most often, it's because they don't think a system like ours can do what it does at the cost and the price point that it does. Small practices, especially, are very price conscious, no
Mhm.
doubt, as they should be. They're trying to get their business off the ground. They're taking their first foray into entrepreneurship or business ownership in many cases, and that that is seen as an expense. You want me to put up this iPad and have a notification system and a check-in system, and also a broadcast system in case anything should go wrong, where I can notify other people who are checked in, hey, something's going on here. We
Mhm.
need to evacuate, things like that. They don't believe that there's a system in place that can do it as simply and effectively and at a price point that makes sense for a small business as
Mm.
what ours does. Time and time again, that is what we hear. But I will say, one of our customers up in Fort Collins, Colorado, here in Colorado, just north of us, Bloom Counseling and Nutrition. One of the things that she said is this is one of those aspects that as she was starting her business during the pandemic, mind you, she was having a walk-in therapy therapy
Mhm.
space right after kind of the first initial wave of the pandemic started to wane. She said, I knew if I wanted my business to present the professional look that I wanted and to grow in the way that I wanted it to grow, I had to think of everything, and that
Mm.
included the check-in experience. And I knew I had to make the investment in my business for the systems that would help me scale down the road. I knew I had to implement that from the start, and she did.
Yeah, it's funny as you were talking, I was thinking about um a therapy experience I had a long time ago where I walked into an office that was open
Yeah.
and there was a room there with chairs, and I was like, what's going on here? Do I have an appointment? So, but on a couple of levels, right? It's like y- just logistically
Yeah.
for the client, it presents a real big question like, do I have an appointment? And then of course, the other side of it is the professional side. Like, is this person, is this therapist taking care of me? Do they
Right.
have their stuff together enough such that they're not only thinking of everything to make this a comfortable experience for me, but making this seamless? And I can't think of a better word than just being professional. I mean, a
Yeah.
lot goes into that.
I also like, if we're talking about words we like, I like the word that you use there, seamless.
Yeah.
That it is, this type of technology is so ingrained in I mean, we order off of QR code driven menus at restaurants for the most
Right.
part now these days. It's a part of what we have come to expect, that we will use technology when we go out and about. One of the things that we want to make mind of in the therapy space is there's a heightened level of privacy. We don't want to say our name and who we're there to see or why we're there when we walk into a therapy
Right.
space,
Right.
especially if there are other people sitting in that waiting area. And yeah, the anxiety that is built up when you walk in and the room is empty. I've been there too, guy. I've walked into my therapist space at a previous therapist, 16, 18 different chairs around. I'm the only person in there. And I grab the seat and I'm like, okay, twiddling my thumbs. I don't know what to do here.
Right.
Well, 10 minutes after my session was supposed to start, my therapist comes out into the waiting room and he goes, "Oh, Michael, I didn't know you were here. I didn't hear you come in."
Right.
Well,
Right.
that's not my fault.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
It's what's going through my head.
Yeah. Of
But
course.
I still get charged for those 10 minutes. So it's that professionalism, it's that dedication to making sure that every step of that experience is accounted for.
What are some, I'm wondering if you've heard of some hesitancies that maybe therapists have talked about or shared, or
Yeah.
even clients? Because one of the things I'm thinking of, you mentioned privacy. So if I'm a client and I'm walking in and I'm checking in, how do I know another client who comes in next to me, maybe won't see my name or anything else?
In that instance, because
Yeah.
as soon as your check-in is done and you tap check-in, your information goes away. It is not
Okay.
displayed there as it would be in a paper
Right.
logbook sitting on the table, right? Where I could just
Right.
say, "Oh, I know
With
that
a
person."
big photo of my
Yeah,
of me.
right.
Right.
We do, again, I think I referenced this earlier. We do suggest that people, for privacy concerns in this space, check in using just initials. That's a popular one. So
Okay.
MA, or first name, last initial, Michael A. So we're not giving any particular identifying information out there. But that is a hesitancy, is just, can I make sure that my customers or my clients and patients are that their information is kept private? Another hesitancy we hear is, well, it's only me. I'm just a one person show here. And I can hear when that front door opens and the only people that are coming in are my patients, my next patient. And again, I go back to, but what is the cost of disruption? We've all
Mm-hmm.
heard of task switching and how long there are varying estimates on how long it takes us to get back in on task after we've been disrupted. I think the most common that I've heard is it takes up to 20 minutes to get back on task after
Mm-hmm.
you've been interrupted. And if you only have 10 minutes in between sessions and 3 of those minutes have to be, your bathroom break, we're
Mm-hmm.
human, right? But you also, if while you're in the bathroom, want to make sure that your client knows that you're there, well, if nothing is there to check them in, then they don't know. And or if those 7 minutes, those last 7 minutes that you have are spent finishing up notes, planning out the rest of your day, maybe making a call to your kids to check in on them, you don't want to be disrupted in that way. So that's a hesitancy that we hear, is just, I'm not big enough for a system like this. This is too much. I
Mm-hmm.
guarantee you, and I promise you that it's not. The last one would be at larger therapy spaces. We have several co-working spaces that are specifically for therapists. So all of they may have 50 offices in their co-working space, and it's all therapists. It's all their own
Right.
private suites. And some of the hesitancy there has been, well, we have somebody sitting at the front desk, and won't just throwing a system up like this um, make it less personal, because we have somebody there to check them in.
Mm-hmm.
And what we say is, the two are not, it's not binary. It's
Mm-hmm.
not a yes and, it's not an either or. It is a yes and, it's not a yes no. It is a yes and. This works very well in tandem with a human receptionist, somebody sitting at the front desk, because our system can take care of the things that robots do best.
Mm-hmm.
The mundane, the privacy stuff, the just simple basic tasks of checking somebody in, and the person can be there to be a human being. Can I
Got it.
get you a cup of coffee? Can I show you where the restroom is? Do you have any questions? Is there anything we need to be aware of? Just things that allow that person to feel like, again, I'm interacting with a human, and we can save the stuff that makes humans into robots. We can save that for the robots.
You mentioned before that in terms of the information that is input into the system,
Yeah.
you said sometimes it might offer, does anything need to be changed or updated? Talk more about when someone walks up to that iPad, what are the options they have?
It's completely customizable.
Okay.
And so we have some therapy and behavioral health customers in this space only ask um, first name, last initial, and who's the therapist that you're there to see. And when you check the therapist, you can add the therapist picture so that they can choose from the picture.
Mm-hmm.
You can, of course, have their name. They can display all their licensure, or
Mm-hmm.
you can make it so that those contacts are hidden to where you have to input the first, 3 to 4 characters of your
Yeah.
therapist's name to check in with them. So it's perhaps hidden behind a little bit of a barrier there. So name or some sort of identifier as to who you are, then who you're there to see. And if that's all you want, that's all that's needed. You can check in from
Mm-hmm.
there. But then you can also add any other questions that you might have. We have some spaces or some customers that use us that have limited parking. And so in their parking lot, they have to validate their parking to be able to
Mm-hmm.
park in this very small lot. So one of the questions is, will you need parking validation today?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, no, so that your therapist can remember at the end of the session, oh, here's your parking validation sticker.
Right. Right.
Another interesting use case that has to do with parking. We had one group practice that started to use our system to track inflow to their clinic, and they were getting ready to move. They were getting ready to move because they were expanding, they were hiring, they were growing. And they said, look, our busiest times are on these days. We have to make sure we move to a space that has a parking lot big enough to account for the expected growth. If these are our busiest days, plus we're adding more, we got to have a bigger parking lot. So they chose their space based on our visitor data. So we can ask for that. We can ask for, has your billing information changed since your last visit? Will you be paying for your visit today, or should we bill the credit card on file? Are types of questions that get asked. Then there's also, so that would be if I'm a client or a patient and I have an appointment with a therapist.
Right.
But you can also have a separate button completely for just visits. Let's say your husband walks in, or your wife walks in and they want to visit you. They want to come into lunch, but you need to make sure you track everybody who's in your building for safety reasons. They can check in and they can and you can change all the questions that you're asking there. There's a button where you can have it for delivery. So if you order a lot of Uber Eats or DoorDash, they can check a button, say who the delivery's for, and then just set the bag down and go. But it'll notify you that your food order has been dropped off. So it's very, very customizable, Guy.
Very cool.
Yeah.
All right. So obviously people listening to this podcast are therapists of all kinds, people in the mental health profession. Someone listening to this is like, okay, you got me, Michael. I'm sold. I want to integrate this, whether they're in private practice or group practice, whatever. What do they need to do? What can they do?
They can go and try our system, make sure it works for you. So if you go to thereceptionist.com/trauma and you sign up for a 14-day free trial there, if you end up actually coming on board as a customer of the Receptionist and you use that landing page and sign up through that page, then you'll get your first month free. So not only will you get 14 days to trial the system, but you'd also get the first full month of actually using the system beyond that trial for free. So that's where you can go to get started. Also on that page, if you just want an interactive demonstration of how the system works and you don't want to start a free trial just yet, you can actually sign up for a product tour. So there's I believe it's a 7 to 8 minute long video that walks you through our system. It's hosted by members of our team. So you'll see our bright shining faces, and we'll walk you through the system and everything that you need to know there. And then the other thing I would say is if you want to test it, but you don't have an iPad, we do have a way for you to test even without an iPad. It's called our iPad simulator. And so you can start a free trial. We can turn on that simulator for you, and you can actually use your computer to simulate an iPad. It's very easy, very cool, and you can actually see what the experience is like.
Okay, awesome, awesome. We'll have this linked up here at the show notes page at the traumatherapistpodcast.com. Okay, so one more time, it's thereceptionist.com/trauma.
That's right.
Okay, we'll have that linked up. Michael, awesome, really informative. Excited to get this out there, and yeah, just thank you for joining me today. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much. We are here to support your audience as best we can. We're very much tied into this audience. We have somebody on our staff dedicated solely towards this audience and the behavioral health community as a whole. Her name is Samantha Penrod. And the last thing I would do, and maybe you can throw this link in the show notes as well, Guy, she puts out a monthly newsletter called Success in Session. And it is all about how to think about the operational side of your business. So many therapists go to school to be a great therapist, but when they start their own practice, the business side and what they perhaps don't know can catch up to them. And so Sam's newsletter is all about, she brings in experts from other people who have done it. I promise you, it is not a sales pitch for the Receptionist.
Right.
It's all about the things to think about, how to be operationally better at running your business. You go be great at therapy, and we'll help you on what we know as a small business ourselves to be great at running the business.
Awesome. Okay. And I'll get that link for you. We'll have that linked up here also.
You got it.
All right, Michael. Thanks, man. Take care.
Thank you.